So welcome to Doing Stuff Outdoors. And what are we doing today? Well, we're going to reassemble the 400C, get that new fuel tank installed onto the main body of the saw and get everything put back together and get a bar back on it and a chain on it, and I'm going to be ready to use it. So stick around. All right, got my new tank here. I'm going to transfer parts over from the old tank to the new tank. Just because you buy a new tank doesn't mean that you get all new parts. What's bad about this whole deal is I've had this tank for 6 months. So the new tank does come with a new vent, so I don't have to change the vent. It also does come with a new fuel line from the tank body down into the tank itself. And it does come with a new fuel cap. Okay. Aha, believe it or not, it even comes with a new Stihl fuel filter too. Wow. Well, that's pretty impressive. So I guess really, the only thing I got to do is take the elbow out right here and put in there. And these just very easily just come out. And it goes in either way. I'm gonna put it in this way, like so. And then the spring here, anti-vibe spring. I don't know how that comes off. Thought it just unscrewed. That's all right, I got other stuff to take off. This piece here, I believe, came with that kit to put the wrap handle on. It's just a stiffener for the tank. I don't think, if you got a regular 400C with a standard half wrap handle, there's no stiffener in here. So put that back on. And use hand tighten this down. So I don't over tighten it. And I'll set this over aside for a second. Gonna have to remove the trigger. Trigger lock, top part of the handle. Still fighting this. Ta-da! It wasn't pretty, but I got it. And that goes on like that. We'll get a punch. I'm going to go ahead and put this back in. Like I said, I got the pin drove back in there. Okay. So now, a little tight, so I'll fix that here in a little bit. You see, it's going to be a lot easier to put this rod back in up there on the saw versus already having it in here. So, yeah. All I got to do is still get this. This should just unscrew. The key word is should. There we go. This is so simple, but yet so difficult. There we go. So I hope some of my failures in the disassembly process is going to help somebody out. If you ever have to do this to your saw. I will say one thing, don't buy cheap parts. I've done enough of these. I've done enough of these to where cheap parts, you don't save money. So, all right, I'll be right back. Change the battery in my flashlight. Okay, looks like we're ready to start putting this thing back together. Yep. I'm gonna everything kind of blowed out, cleaned up. I did plug the holes before I blew this out, in case anybody was wondering. Yeah. Really, the first thing I got to do is get this fuel line hooked back up. To the tank. I'll be back. I'm back. Okay, so what I did is I did go ahead and pull this off because it holds the fuel line in on this end, which I probably could have fought it for an hour and not taken it off, but I decided to go ahead and take it off. And now, because this end of the fuel tank, this grommet has to go a certain way to fit in right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pry this back out, like so. Stick this in there. And like I said, I hope you folks learned something from my failures here today. Because like I said, I'm just a hobby person. All right, so now, see, I can push that down in there. I don't think I would have ever got that on there. And then when I stick the tank up in there, all I got to do is feed that hose up through there, and shazam, should be in good shape. So I say. Okay. So now, slide all this in there like so. Kind of take my needle nose pliers and this is what this all looks like. Yeah, actually, I think I got that off. Piston looks good. real good. So just there we go. Something like that. Yeah. Start putting the screws back in it. So would have been a lot easier if I'd have just disassembled the whole thing like I just did. But as I promised on my channel some videos back ago, you'll see it all here, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Ground it here. Actually, that one just slides down in there, like so. Just slides back down in there like that. If y'all can see that, like so. And when I bolt the coil back up, it kind of holds it in place. Okay, we get the coil bolted back up. I got my air gap gauge for the coil. This is actually a Stihl specialty tool. So I've kind of got the poles lined up where the coil goes, and then put that in there. And then I'll put this in here. Run my screws down. Like so. Snug them. So, pull the gauge out. Make sure that it doesn't touch on both sides. There we go. That part of it is done. Now, set all that. On this side, remember this thing just, now this one does kind of snap into the case. There's nothing to go in there, it just kind of snaps in. like so. This tank doesn't really get firmed up until you really get the handlebar back on it. Okay, I'm gonna go blow this shroud off on this side. Be right back. I don't know if a lot of people realize this or not, but here, this orange shutter, this is the cold weather shutter. If you're running your Stihl chainsaws at temperatures below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, you take this shutter out and you flip it upside down and put it back in, and that way it gets heat off the cylinder head to keep the carburetor from icing up. So, all right, so I'm gonna turn this fuel line hose up through here first. At least, like I said, that's the plan. Doesn't mean it's going to work out. And then, gotta get these grommets fed. Back through the opening here. Being very careful not to tear anything. I didn't pull on it. All right. So, see, got my fuel line up through there. Why didn't I do that when I started this project? I'll tell you why. I worked in automotive as a technician for a long time. And I got paid by the job. And I'm not saying I take shortcuts, but if I didn't have to take it off to do the job, I didn't do it. And that's kind of why I'm the way that I am. I know that doesn't sound good, but that is why the way that I am. But as I got older, I learned sometimes taking something else off, even though it's not remotely part of the job, it might make the job go quicker. I'm going to go blow this off. Yeah, this will be a little bit harder to, probably, before I get too far. Yeah, I think I can put the throttle linkage back up in there after I get this on there. So now I got to get all this stuff ran back through here. This is the one thing, and again, maybe it's just because I don't do it often enough, I just don't like Stihl for. And that's how they, that's how they do their intake boots and stuff. I've never worked on a Husqvarna saw before, but it just seems like there would be an easier way to do this. You know? But what I know. So I know I'm going to have to take one of these screws back out, but I am going to go ahead and put these in there to kind of hold this in place. Maybe. There we go. I'll have to take this one back out, but I just don't want this flopping around on me. I'll tell you, one of the easiest saws I've ever worked on, though, has been a 462. They have all of this. It's similar to this, but it's a lot easier to work on with the you know, the kill switch wires and coil wire and all that stuff, and how they routed it. fixed that saw and sold it to a friend. And he just loves it. And I haven't been able to find one. Haven't been able to find one to rebuild since. But that's okay. My buddy John, good man. Sorry if this is not showing up. This is just something that you just can't see. So I got my fingers and stuff there in the way. There's one. But like I said, this is the impulse. This is the impulse. It handles the impulsing and all that stuff. All right, almost got it. There's two. Don't want to forget your spacer. You can see we got the fuel line back in its holder. Got the intake boot going to the cylinder and stuff. That's the hole for the impulse line, or that is the impulse line. And then this little guy right here, don't ever forget to put that back on or you're over tightening it and it won't seal. Slides over the studs like so. Voila. There we go. Okay. Next step. So see, now I can put this throttle linkage in. Yeah, we'll go this way with it. And I put that slot in there like that. And there we go. So see, this goes in here. Maybe I'm just better at reassembly. All this. Like that. Got a linkage up in there. Now I gotta turn it. Again, sorry, you wouldn't be able to see my fingers in there anyway. There we go. See, I got it snapped down in there. And then all I gotta do is run it through the trigger here. Maybe. pretty ingenious. So the throttle itself rests in here, like so. You pull the trigger, works like so. I'm trying to figure out why that trigger is so tight in there. Of course, I'm about ready to screw up here. My spring's stuck underneath there. Okay, small change of plans here. I'm gonna go ahead and get it to where everything's solid, and then I'm gonna drive this pin back out, and I'll fix all that stuff here in a little bit. So, but yeah. All right. Slide all this in. So like I said, the fuel line hooks up here, like so. So when I slide all this back in, and then here's where that lever rotates up and actuates the throttle and stuff. So, pretty cool. A lot of thought went into this. Amazing. They really think stuff through on some stuff. Glasses on here. And my fuel line is going in. And everything is seating the way that it should. Okay. That looks good. And now, this thing. So make sure your gasket's still in good shape here, which this one appears to be still in pretty good shape. These things are boogers to get back in there. But once you get it started, it goes right in. Like so. Just like that. The gaskets are seated. Wires kind of go like this. So here's a special tool from Stihl. It's just a wire pusher into, you know, like the guides. It's not sharp, so you won't damage your wire and stuff. Let's see, like this. This black wire goes down in here, so I can reach down in there. I know, again, it's hard to see, but it just keeps you from damaging the wires, putting them in their grommets and guides and holders and things like that. And then I said I was going to have to take this one screw back out because this one's got a eye in it. So I'm going to take this back out. But that helped me hold everything while I was putting it together. So all this goes. Now I won't tighten this down yet till I get all my wires ran. Sometimes the older stuff is more fun to work on, but you know, sometimes the newer stuff ain't so bad either. So see, like this wire goes down in there. That wire looks like it might be getting a little. I just said this tool doesn't damage, and it doesn't, but so see, this goes here. I don't know how well y'all can see that. See, I got all the wires tucked back in their proper places. And this one goes across here. Plug in here. And this all slides neatly in here. It's like I know what I'm doing. Ha 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 ha. Yeah. I like it. All right, so now I'll go ahead and tighten this screw back up before I forget. Oops. Turned on me when I tightened it up. There we go. Go ahead and put the nuts back on. What's bad is I could probably do this again on another saw in about 20 minutes. And I figured it, got it figured out again. I haven't worked on a lot of saws over the past 3 years. I just was busy with my career. I'm not a car guy, even though I've worked in automotive for almost 39 years. I'm just not a car guy. I don't like cars. My hobby has never been a hot rod or anything like that. It's always been working on smaller things. Okay, so this is all pretty much put back together, except for a choke rod. So I'll put our choke rod in. side, it goes like, sometimes you're better off just getting a pair of helps if you put it in. It's amazing. We always go, oh, I remember how it goes. Yeah, that's not working out very well for me. There. And then that goes down on this. And then if you remember right, we had this little guy right here. Kind of slides over this to keep it from falling out. Come on, Scott. Gotta get it just right. And all this does is keep the, there we go. See, that goes in, it keeps that rod from popping out of there. Then we'll get our little, I believe this one is a T10. I brought my T10 over when I needed the T15. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot easier than a straight bladed screwdriver. Putting that back in, like so. Okay. Coming right along. So now, all these wires tuck in behind the coil wire. So let's plug this back in. Plugged in. Got that plugged back in, and I got to put my screw back in that. That one was a T15. Usually Stihl's pretty consistent. T27 on everything. And then once in a while they had a T10 for like the solenoid for the M-tronics on the carburetor. Go. And now all that can tuck in. Again, I'm using not a screwdriver, a tool designed for this. Just kind of push wiring back in to passageways. And that doesn't look very good. That doesn't look very good. Hang on. Fix that. There we go. Some of these wires are getting coil wire. So then the coil wire goes up through here and kind of keeps those where they need to be. Plug that back in. So. Oh, I see my first fly. He's not doing too good though. Alright, so then that one just kind of sets there. But these get pushed in this holder. Well, if I push them in the right spot. I got everything where it's out of the way. Won't get caught on anything. Yep. All right. Now we'll put we'll go blow the chip deflector off. This keeps chips from getting sucked up in the air cleaner box compartment. Pretty simple, it just goes in here like so. It's crazy that if I remember right, I had to buy one of those pieces for, I can't remember if it was this saw, but it fell down when I heard the price of it. It was like $25, 30 bucks for that little piece of plastic. That's all there. Pull the recoil cover off. Yeah, when you're feeling your saw, try to keep from spilling oil, because it gets all down in here too, and I know it's kind of hard sometimes, but when I do hand tighten these, I don't run these down and zap them with the gun. Almost like a brand new saw with that new fuel tank. Kind of like getting new wheels on your car. Makes an old car, makes it look 100 times better. And that one. That one. And that one. Okay, coming along. Looking like it's all. Well, that's going to be about it for today. Hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, share with your friends. And in the next video, you'll see me finish up the reassembly of the saw, of installation of the new fuel tank. So make sure you catch that. And as always, thanks for watching and have a super fantastic day.